Welcome to the podcast. I'm delighted to introduce our esteemed Genies Career Hub accredited coaches today to discuss leadership and emotional intelligence. Should we kick off with the introductions then? Kathleen,
Yeah.
you want to go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
But yeah, I am Kathleen O'Sullivan. I'm delighted to be here. So thanks for the invitation. And I often call myself a leadership consultant, coach, facilitator. I love the whole shebang. You could summarize it as working with people and meeting them where they are, basically. And I've been in leadership roles myself for quite a few years. Comes to 18 years this year. I'm working globally, predominantly in large, fast changing, matrix structured, complex organizations until I said, you know what, I think I can make a bigger impact coming in from the outside and supporting people this way. So this is what led me onto this path. And I think what distinguishes me from some of my other esteemed peers is that I bring in my German, Irish, British element in a combination. So the German part of me would say I'm no fluff, quite direct, but with a lot of kindness and care and empathy. And that's how most of my clients describe me. And I love to be this way, bringing in a combination of coaching and mentoring and teaching to some extent as well. You asked me about passions before we joined this call. And one of my passions is being on podcasts and hosting podcasts. Another one is red wine, but I'm not going to talk too much about it, traveling. And I am a mom. And I'd say my son, who's now 4, is my biggest passion and my biggest learning. So I bring in probably a few examples with regards to emotional intelligence and being a mother and all the challenges in particular as a leader that brings as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic, Kathleen. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is, how do you describe yourself? Like yourself, I'm a sort of coach. I specialize in sort of career development and management coaching. I think is probably the best way to describe it. And like you, Kathleen, I came into this from working within a wide range of private and public sector organizations, but then 21 years ago made that big decision. Seems a long time ago, but it's gone by in the blink of an eye to create my own entity, my own enterprise, which is, well, we're here today, and I'm still here to survive to tell many stories and many tales about that. Along the way, I think, I now sort of lead this organization, lead and manage projects and people, got 8 associates working with me. It's a successful, profitable business. It's survived recessions, pandemics. It's here, and I think I'm proud of that. It's interesting hearing you say about, as a parent, I've got 2 sons, they're older, but and I think they, like you, I'm proud of them because they're on their own career journeys. And I think sometimes they say to me, Dad, what is it that you do? And I say, well, I could describe it, I could go on for hours, but perhaps at the heart of it is this thing called emotional intelligence. I think that underpins almost everything that I do, whether it's with individuals or with organizations. That's really at the heart of it. Outside of this, my passions are music, really. I'm a musician, and also write and like nature, walking, and those are my passions outside, which I value equally. I think it's incredibly important to get that balance of yourself, and the things combine, the worlds combine. So that's far too much for me. So over to Sheila.
Oh God, what a bar you two have set. Okay, so so lovely to be here, and it's so good to meet you guys. So my name is Tashila. My journey into becoming an executive coach is I've worked in large organizations, predominantly healthcare. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but you have that light switch moment in your career when you're just like, what am I doing? And for me, the switch into kind of running the HR OD side, into coming into the executive coaching space, I was literally scratching my head, just like, what are we doing? Like, this is mad. This we're being counterproductive here. In what we do as organizations. We run organizations through almost like a method of fear. And I think for me, that was my game changer moment. That set me then down on a pathway of becoming an executive coach. until I just decided, you know what, I just want to do it by myself, because there's so many, you know, as you said, Kathleen, sometimes it's just about making that impact externally rather than internally, because I feel that you're heard more when you come from a different angle. And my company basically means pathway. The word means pathway. You know, we're all set on a pathway. That pathway changes, you know, our home life impacts that as well, as much as, you know, what happens at work. So it's just about making it a better place. You know, I work predominantly at the moment, I'm working in the sports industry quite a lot, looking at executive coaching throughout the sports industry. It's a really interesting space to work in. And I get my passions right. So if you would have spoken to me about 3 years ago, my passions in life would have been reading, going out, enjoying myself. But then I had 2 boys, one after another. So right now my passions are sleeping. You know, healing from scratches. Yeah, like, you know, red light therapy would probably be one of my passions. So yeah, that's me.
So I'm Orla Smythe. I'm CEO and founder of the Genies Career Hub. I kind of had a bit of an epiphany back in 2015 after a bad marriage breakup that I wanted to do something different. So I'd worked kind of predominantly in sales, recruitment, IT, even working for companies like IBM and Oracle. And I kind of got to a point around the 2015 mark where, you know, I had a bad marriage breakdown, and I just needed to change things. I was a single mum of a son with ADHD, so he's quite neurodivergent anyway, and he has complex needs. So I set on a path really to kind of, I wanted to do I didn't want to do the whole sales traveling around, because I didn't have the family support. So I had to think of something that I could do whilst being a mum and not having much family support. And then obviously the neurodivergence comes into it as well. So I applied for a role as an IPS employment specialist with one of the NHS trusts in Northampton, Northamptonshire Healthcare Foundation Trust. And I was successful there to become an IPS individual placement support consultant. So for many years, I helped people with enduring mental health and a forensic background get back into work. And I found that very rewarding. And I think whilst on that kind of discovery or on that path, I was looking around, and, you know, there was lots of different government initiatives. There was lots of disparate things, services. But I suppose there was nothing that was all in one. And really, that's kind of where I started to envision, you know, a one-stop shop, you know, solution, where, you know, there would be mentorship, there would be guidance, and, you know, lots of different resources available that people, to try and take the complexity out of looking for work, and to try and handhold people really, you know, from one step to the very end. Because what I noticed was there wasn't a lot of mentorship, and everything was kind of all over the place. So this is where kind of Career Genies initially, which is what it became in 2020, and that was me as a career coach, kind of helping different people, you know, from any stage in the career right up until exec level, to really trying to create something that would be an end-to-end cohesive platform. And then basically in 2024 we've had the beta version of what really was my vision, kind of right back as far as kind of maybe 2018. So it's slowly evolving, and I'm proud to say that we've now got 22 accredited coaches on the platform. We've built, you know, career development, artificial intelligence tools. We've got corporate programs that we're hoping to launch now with our esteemed coaches. And, you know, I think if we can get this right, I think this could be very, very meaningful and very, very productive platform, you know. And obviously it's still in its infancy, so this is kind of still early days for us all. But I think if we can try and get the momentum going on this, we might be able to create something really, really beautiful, really, really good. I am, and what I'm hoping to achieve. So that's a little bit about me. Shall we delve in? Who wants to start to talk about baby leadership and, you know, and emotional intelligence, and then obviously that in the workplace? Who wants to jump in? Who wants to start?
Happy to start. And
Brilliant,
you know
Kathleen.
why I'm happy to start? I haven't spoken for a few minutes now. Was listening actively.
Yeah,
No,
actively
joking. But actually, I ran a session yesterday that was strongly focused, or had a big element of emotional intelligence in it, and it was with younger emerging leaders. And that's a group of people I really love to work with, because you
Yeah,
can
that's
shape, you can, step into the values, into the beliefs, and really, really support individuals understanding what does leadership mean for them, and how can they have therefore a positive and impactful impact on others, which I believe is strongly needed in this slightly crazy world we operate in at the moment. And what was a real aha moment for them was when I showed Manfred Katz de Vries model, where you basically see two graphs. One graph is a line that goes upwards with regards to emotional competence that's required the more you progress as a leader. So you start out perhaps more as a technical leader or expert, and then slowly but surely you may take over, and I would say traditional leadership responsibility. What do I mean by traditional? You have teams grow, you step up in a very hierarchical manner. And I'm sure, looking at the faces of my colleagues here, we know leadership so much more than that. And the second graph was basically a downward facing line, and that was all about technical competence. And so many people are still, from my perspective, from the experiences that I've had, from observations that I'm making, promoted because of their technical expertise. And what you notice is that despite the fact that emotional intelligence is needed more, that decreases quite often. Because we have learned how to do things, we bring the technical capabilities and skills into the mix. But what we are either not taking time for is to connect with ourselves, our own emotions and those of others, build those relationships, be able, I wouldn't call it manage emotions, I'm not sure how possible it is, but somewhat regulate our emotions to be better for others as well. And so therefore we trust our skills and everything we have done so far and how we have been doing it. And research has also shown that the higher up you get, the lower emotional intelligence becomes. Because as I just said, there are a few reasons. We don't take the time for it because suddenly there is a different kind of pressure, goal orientation, deliver up on the strategic priorities and whatnot. So we may lose track of it. But also we become, if we are not intentional about it, more disconnected from people across the organization. So we are losing touch literally with them. And there are plenty of other reasons why we may be not focusing on emotional competence building and intelligence. I think it's utterly important that we shift our thinking and that we start, if we are not doing that already, to help people understand the importance and to help them understand how to develop emotional intelligence as well.
That's a very good point, actually, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would echo that. It's interesting that I think probably the best way to gauge sort of trends is what sort of client organizations are asking for, really. And I think of one case example where a leadership and management program like yours, Kathleen, which is predominantly aimed at, like they call it, aspiring leaders, in its original format about 8 or 9 years ago, had a little bit of a mention about emotional intelligence. There was a little part of it. And then I have a look at it now, and it's literally been recommissioned in the last couple of weeks. It's expanded so that now emotional intelligence is almost at the core of that. My concern is, as you say, is that if we're embedding it with aspiring leaders, what I'm keen to do is to go back and work with those middle leaders and managers, and also with the senior leaders and managers, and say, look, we're doing it here. Where are you with this? Some of those people have been on that journey over that period of time and hopefully remember it. But actually, some of my concern is, are we giving sufficient to those senior leadership teams and exec level? I'm not sure. Have I got sufficient evidence to say yes, we are? I'm not 100% certain, if I'm honest. I think it's interesting when you get asked to go back in and do seminars on these sorts of things, and sometimes the responses I get surprise me, because I don't get that same level of sort of understanding that sometimes I get from those aspiring leaders groups. It's really interesting, actually. And that's just a an observation rather than a scientific fact, I think, really.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everything that's being said, and I love the research aspect to it. So I would guess from my experience, so I have had a long time working with exec leaders in the healthcare settings. And what's really, really interesting to see there is you've got, let's say, one of the top surgeons in the UK. Okay, so they're very used to that, like their role of work is to deal with someone that's predominantly knocked out on the table and they're operating on that person, right? So they've got the technical knowledge coming out of their ears there. So they would be fit to lead on a commissioning role. However, you put that personality type into an organization where they now have to lead a team to work towards that one goal, it just doesn't work. So the argument there is technically we need that technical capability to be able to do that role, but they just have to kind of get on and do it. And when you're working with clinicians, I don't know if any of you have worked with clinicians, and wow, like a lot of the time they think that what we do is like hug trees and sing to plants, but I don't know if you've ever had that come back at you before. But the importance of targeted executive coaching, I think at that level is possibly where I've worked a lot in that space. It's around, they're not built with the emotional intelligence because they've had to almost suppress that to get job number one done in general. So it's about how do we bring that self-awareness out of them and deal with it. And a lot of the time where we've commissioned workshops just haven't worked because you're dealing with a systematic problem. And it's about, I think executive coaching really needs to come into the spotlight here around embedding this culture within certain industries that are quite difficult, because I think without executive culture, without holding people accountable, and without that continuous targeted handheld support that you spoke about, Orla, you're not going to get the outcomes in that demographic that you were talking about, David, around the people that are already doing. I think where we go wrong is we don't bring executive coaching into the spotlight at all. It's mainly focused around organizations. So organizations are stood there going, well, actually, this is amazing, but how do we embed it? Do we just do workshops? But I think what we do is pivotal to making that work in the industry. And that's just from what I've kind of seen.
And I think there are two key challenges, one of which you have mentioned with regards to stepping back and stepping into that space of emotional intelligence. The one that I hear non-stop and it makes me smile is, who's got time for this? Right? I need to deliver. Here's my massive to-do list. Now you want me to have great conversations, to actively listen, to reflect upon my own behaviors and emotions and much, much more. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. And I can explore that a little bit more later, how and what can help here. And the second piece is around, and Tashila, you mentioned it, it's perceived as tree hugging, fluffy, spiritual, right? And I think the penny starts to drop in many, many individuals that it is essential. Call it tree hugging, call it spiritual. You can give it any name, but in the end, it comes back to connecting with yourself and others. Exactly. And how you behave and how you show up in this world. And actually it has implications, very positive implications, performance, engagement, turnover rates in terms of not losing people all the time and so much more, speaking about well-being, mental well-being, and so on. The list is lengthy. So we've got to start to prioritize it. So therefore, I'm really with you. Where do we start? Senior leaders have to be involved, execs have to be involved. And the last thing I would say about it, and you notice I'm passionate about this, let's meet people where they are. Don't throw exec coaching or leadership coaching or any coaching at people. We had a lot of conversations about, so do we do clean coaching, non-clean coaching? What do people need? Do they need some advice? Do they need a buddy, a partner, a mentor, a coach, according to the ICF and all of these official boards? What do they need? And let's focus on that. And that means being able to flex as well in our approach.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's about the flexing aspect, and it's also about kind of getting corporate organizational buy-in. I think that is the main thing, because the leaders have the capability to adapt and to bring it on if corporate give them the space to do it.
Sure.
If the organization can, so when you're speaking about like the time, it is about having the tick box of the organization understanding and embedding that this is a really, really important part of the bigger picture. Let's buy it in, let's commission it in. And I think that is where the main blocker I find a lot of the time is, because it's that vicious circle, isn't it? Haven't got the time, make the time, but where do I then get, how do I bring those efficiencies in? So I feel it. And I as well, I'm super, super passionate, because emotional intelligence, it's not just about getting the job done as well. It's the impact that people actually have on lives of their employees. You get emotional intelligence wrong at work, that person's going home to what could be not a great situation. We're not going to be resilient all through our lives, and you don't know how that's landing. You don't know the impact and how it takes, and then it leads on to the kind of studies that I've done around suicide rates in the industry. Emotional intelligence, it can literally be pinpointed to how you're dealt with, is what I've personally found. It's just at the forefront of everything that we do, and some people don't even have the capacity to understand it. It's about how do working specifically, as you said, with people on what level they're at is so, so important. But I honestly don't think we can do it without having people like us literally come into an organization and offer bespoke packages, which is kind of what you've created here on this platform, which is what I think is so refreshing to be part of the discussion.
Another sort of soft skills as well, because it's sort of like just indicating that they're not important. They're not as important as the technical stuff. And that's a perception we need to break. And also, I think, emotional intelligence, we all understand it, but it still isn't sort of universal language. You don't hear it. We're hearing things like well-being, time, and the sort of this, and I think our understanding of the complexities of mental health, even now, those things are becoming public conversations. That people are opening up much more to talk more about these things, but I still don't think that emotional intelligence is fully understood.
No.
And that's we're all maybe guilty of not explaining it clearly enough, or feeling that it's a world that we belong to. But that's the issue, because this should be for everybody. I'm a great advocate that this affects each and every person on the planet.
Yeah.
And a more emotionally intelligent world, we wouldn't quite probably not be seeing a lot of the things that are happening in the world if emotional intelligence was, and it goes right back to where is it introduced in schools? All of those. There's a whole piece around that. I think that it shouldn't be something that you suddenly come across this terminology when you enter a workplace.
Very true, David. That
even
is
then, it's not really understood. So there's scope to go far deeper with this and much younger. But that's, it's fascinating, isn't it? It really is. And we'll continue to sort of state our cause, but I think it is a really important thing to be able
that's such a fantastic point. Oh my God, I didn't, you've just hit a light bulb with me, because you're actually at school, you're told what to do, you're told how to act, you're told when to let loose, you're told what is expected of you, and then all of a sudden, you're only doing what you kind of know. Oh, that's such a good point.
IQ. It's like, how intelligent are you? You've got an IQ of, or you've got a grade, and it's almost like the way that we are judged is on those sort of percentage marks, and yet EQ is such more of a variable, and it's not discussed in the same terms. And I just wonder why. What you want to do is to speak to government ministers, education ministers, and say, look, let's have this conversation, because surely there's a space for this, because everyone benefits from this.
No, definitely.
Everything benefits from it.
And in some countries, you see some changes where it is implemented, where because of to Sheila, coming back to the system still says you have to have certain marks, and this is how you have to assess the pupils, right? And at the same time, schools independently decide what kind of subjects to bring in, and emotional intelligence starts to be one of them. Breathing and breath work, financial understanding. I mean, we could go on and on. But it's almost like pockets of experimentation. And I wished we would talk about this more. We could learn so much from Scandinavia, for example, with regards to that. And we don't look enough into those other markets, which comes back to leadership. Are we looking outside of our own silos enough without this feeling of, oh no, I can't spy, or no, then they might want information from us, which is part of emotional intelligence, my self-awareness and how I deal with the knowledge and the insights I gain from it. And I think there we have, I'm with you, a big challenge. And having said that, I think, and that's applicable to any part of society, that there is something we all can do. Small steps taken consistently can make a huge difference. So we can, I'm going to be blunt, moan and complain and talk to the system about what they need to do differently, or we think about, okay, what's something I can do?
Yeah, exactly.
So to give you a very brief example, in my household, and to Sheila, you may have had a few of those challenges. With a 4-year-old, the last year was beyond challenging. One tantrum followed the other. And coming back from holiday feels like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I need a holiday now. And you know what? When my little one has a tantrum, I have a choice. I go nuts. I start to scream. I start to tell him what not to do, to be quiet now, to go into his room, which sometimes happened as well. I'm not perfect, right? Or I can step into my own space for the moment, which I can do through breathing, for example, through literally saying to him, I need 5 seconds. As to whether he listens to it is a different story. But to kind of gather myself for a short moment, collect myself in this moment. And then what I do more often is to offer him a big hug. And then to give him this hug and to simply breathe together with him. And there's nothing else that's needed. And suddenly I can literally feel his heartbeat calming down, and he is calm, and now we can have a chat. Now, this is nothing new. This takes me probably 10 seconds. If I let the tantrum go on and on and on, it will take much longer, and it will have repercussions in terms of conflict, bad feelings. He will remember this moment, and so on. Now, let's translate that into organizations, into formal leadership. Does it really take us more time, right? To be emotional intelligent, to step into the space where we meet others where they are? I think that question is answered with it. And the other part is around, what are some of the small steps that we can take to make a difference and to pass on some more effective and positive behaviors that others, because of authority bias, will look at and hopefully in their own authentic way copy perhaps and take away.
Learn from it. Take on board some of these strategies. It is very, very true. Kind of learned behavior, positive learn